You hide behind layers, polished armor of certainty, practiced smiles, rehearsed answers to questions you've not yet been asked. You have trained yourself to present a composed front, to speak with clipped confidence, to avoid the tremor that comes when the world glimpses the ragged edges of your true self. But your vulnerability is not a weakness to be concealed. It is a sacred chalice brimming with your most potent gifts. Today you will lift that chalice to your lips, drink deeply from its trembling edge, and discover that vulnerability is the elixir of your authentic power. You begin by closing your eyes in a moment of stillness, allowing the air to settle around your chest. You feel the familiar flicker of resistance, the tightening in your throat as memories of past exposures flit across your mind. You inhale fully, filling your lungs with the quiet, humid air, and you exhale any rush to steel yourself against the moment. You whisper into the hush behind your eyes, "Here in this breath, I surrender my defenses." In that instant, you sense the first tremor of openness. Your throat unclenches, your chest softens, a weight you didn't know you carried lifts just enough to reveal a sliver of space. You open your eyes and look around the room you occupy. The walls press in with the familiar shapes of furniture and shadows, but for the first time in a long while, you notice the small cracks in the plaster, the faint variation of color in the floorboards, the way dust motes drift like slow dancers in the beam of light that filters through the window. You step into that light and feel its warmth bloom on your skin. You sense how this beam, though soft, fissures the darkness, much like vulnerability, which breaks through the rigidity of armor with a gentle yet unyielding force. You walk to your mirror and pause before it, steadying yourself. The face that meets your gaze is both familiar and strange. Eyes etched with lines you have not honored, lips curved in a half-smile that has grown habitual. You let your gaze linger on the fine tremble beneath your eyes, the faint stiffness at the corners of your mouth, the softness of your cheeks that you have learned to mask with careful shading of words and posture. You lean forward, breathing into your reflection, and you murmur, "I see you and I embrace you." You allow your heart to recognize the reflection as first a friend, then as a companion you have avoided too long. In that moment, your vulnerability blooms like a flower opening to the morning sun. You feel a soft grief for the times you glided past this mirror without truly seeing, but you also feel a pulse of gratitude for the awareness that grows in its place. You step back from the mirror, resisting the impulse to recoil. Instead, you draw a small, unassuming cup from your desk drawer, a simple ceramic chalice you once received as a gift. You cradle it in your palms, feeling its cool surface and the gentle weight it carries. You walk to a pitcher of water on the table and pour a small measure into the chalice, noticing how the liquid gleams under the light, each ripple catching a glint of gold. You sense the symbolism, water representing the flow of your emotions, the purity of your unfiltered self, the clarity that emerges when you strip away the defenses. You return to your chair and sit, placing the chalice before you. You study its rim, knowing the moment is both simple and profound. You are about to drink from a vessel that represents your willingness to show your raw self. You feel a subtle tug of fear, the fear of being judged, dismissed, or misunderstood, but you also feel the stronger pull of longing, the longing to be known fully, to speak your truth, to allow others to see the pulse of your life beneath the surface. You lift the chalice with both hands, bringing it to your lips. As the water touches your tongue, you feel a gentle shock, cold clarity sliding down your throat, cooling the burn of past shame. You swallow, and the water settles in your belly, a quiet reservoir that anchors you in the present moment. You set the chalice on your lap and close your eyes, feeling the aftershock of that first sip ripple through your body. You sense the barriers you have held up meeting gentle dissolving. The rigid posture, the tight jaw, the languid tension coiled in your shoulders. You breathe into the softening, feeling your heart open like a flower petal under a slow, warm rain. You whisper to your own beating heart, "I trust you." In that utterance, the hard edges of your fear begin to blur, replaced by a growing trust in your own capacity to be seen, heard, and honored. You rise from your chair, leaving the chalice behind like a silent pledge. You move to the corner of the room where a notebook and pen lie waiting, a vessel for your unfolding truth. You sit at the table and run your hand over the cool wood, noting the gentle unevenness of its grain. You place the notebook open before you and rest your pen on the first blank page. You feel the hum of potential vibrating through your fingers. You remember the times you wrote words that never saw the light, half-formed poems, unshared confessions, letters you wrote but never sent. You realize those words were born of vulnerability but died in the fear that they were too raw to be heard. You breathe again, drawing the tension back into your chest and releasing it with intention. You whisper, "Today I will not stop." And then, with no hesitation, you begin to write. Your hand moves across the page in swift strokes, each word a flicker of honesty. "I am afraid that if I reveal my emptiness, I will be hollowed further." You pause, feeling the tension of the confession ripple through your chest, and then you continue, "But I also know that this fear has kept me in a cage of my own making." The pen glides on, and as you write, you feel the weight of each pennyworth of truth lighten the masses in your chest. You let the pages fill with the litany of your vulnerabilities, moments when you froze in conversation, times when your voice cracked beneath the weight of emotion, desires you buried for the sake of others' comfort. Each phrase lands on the page with the finality of a drumbeat, declaring your willingness to be undone by your own truth. You read what you have written, the lines shimmering with the unvarnished essence of your soul. You notice how the act of writing has shifted something within you. The tremor of your fear has become a chord of awareness. The ache of your grief has softened into a well of empathy. The sting of past shame has reframed as a lesson in compassion. You fold the page carefully and set it aside, knowing that even if no one else ever reads these words, they have already done their work. They have brought your vulnerability into the light and welcomed it without judgment. You step away from the table and wander to the window. You draw back the curtain and let the pale morning light flood in. You breathe deeply, letting the light infuse every cell. You look out at the world, the trees swaying in the breeze, the distant hum of traffic, the solitary bird perched on a ledge, and you realize you are part of this living tapestry. You sense that your vulnerability is not an isolated burden but a thread woven through the larger fabric of human experience. In that realization, the solitude you once felt dissolves. You understand that everyone carries a chalice of vulnerability, though few dare to drink from it. You close the window and return to the chalice on your chair. You pick it up once more, recognizing that the next sip must go even deeper. You tilt it to your lips, and the water flows like a second initiation. Colder, more probing, stirring hidden currents within you. You feel the tremor of raw emotion rise like a silent tide, and you close your eyes, surrendering to its flow. In that wave of emotion, you see faces you have long neglected, those you have judged too harshly, those you have unseen in your rush to guard your own wounds. You feel the hunger to reach out, to speak words of kindness where once you offered only silence. You sense the call to embrace those who share this human capsule of vulnerability, to extend the chalice that you have dared to drink. You place the chalice down gently and step into the hall outside your room. You move deliberately, body alight with the hum of possibility. Each step echoes like a drum, a rhythmic reminder that your vulnerability is not a shackle but a drumbeat guiding your dance. You arrive at the living room where a friend sits, reading. You approach and feel the familiar tug of hesitation, fear that your newly unveiled self might unnerve them. You take a breath and lean into that hesitation, letting it guide you to an honest opening. You say softly, "I want to share something with you, my own truth in its messy form." Your friend looks up, surprise flickering in their gaze, then shifts to curiosity. You feel relief. Your vulnerability has found a safe harbor. You tell them, "I've been afraid that I'm not enough, intellectually, creatively, emotionally. I've hidden parts of myself because I convinced myself they were too broken to be shared." You watch as your words ripple across their face, softening in recognition, widening with empathy. You continue, breathing between sentences so your own heart has room to catch up. "But I've begun to see that my fractures are not flaws, but the very facets that let in light. I drank from the chalice of my vulnerability today, and it tastes like truth and freedom." Your friend closes the book and leans forward, their hand resting on yours in a gesture that says, "You are not alone." In that moment, you feel the power of vulnerability transform from an internal quake into a bridge of shared humanity. You part ways with your friend as the day unfolds, a gentle promise that you will speak your truth whenever it beckons. You move through chores, errands, even the stiff politeness of a brief workplace interaction, carrying within you the same transformative awareness. You notice the sense of ease that comes from not having to mask your tremor behind rehearsed confidence. In a meeting, when feedback comes that stings, you allow yourself to say, "I hear your critique and I feel my heart tighten, but I also feel my resolve strengthen. Let me integrate this and return with my improved understanding." Your colleagues nod, not with discomfort, but with respect born of your authentic posture. In that exchange, you realize that vulnerability does not invite weakness. It invites trust. As afternoon bleeds into evening, you return home carrying the echo of that conversation. You refill the chalice with water and hold it before you as the light fades. You sense that the final sip of vulnerability must also be an offering, a gesture that closes the day's circle of truth in a silent pact. You drink and feel the water's coolness trace the contours of courage along your throat. You set the chalice aside and kneel before a small altar you keep on your desk. 2 lit candles, a bowl of stones, and an empty glass. You pick up the glass and pour the last remnants of water into the bowl of stones. The water trickles over each rock, creating a murmur of tiny ripples. You watch until each ripple fades into stillness, a mirror of the calm that has settled in your chest. You rise and step into your bedroom. You stand before the mirror once more, the reflection now different. Eyes still edged with weariness, yes, but electric with the promise of tomorrow's dawn. You whisper, "I honor you, vulnerability," this time not as a mere concept, but as a living, beating pulse within you. You close the mirror's lid, knowing that the next time you stand before it, you will see less of the armor and more of the unguarded self you have learned to embrace. You climb into bed and settle under the covers, letting each sheet fold around you with a softness that feels earned. You place your hand over where your heart still hums with that morning's intention, and you breathe in sync with the steady rhythm of night. You are aware of your vulnerability as a guiding presence, a flickering flame that requires tending but will never dim if you honor its light. You whisper once more, "I carry you with me," and in that simple vow, you feel your spine relax, your mind quiet, and your heart find its place. As you drift into sleep, you dream of a chalice filled with morning light, brimming with the unfiltered essence of your being. You see yourself lifting it without hesitation, drinking deeply until your entire soul tastes of honesty and grace. You understand in the depths of slumber that vulnerability is your truest guide, leading you not away from life's storms, but into their heart, teaching you to emerge not unscathed, but alchemized by the raw heat of authenticity.